Hello, ya potheads. So I'm re-recording this video because in editing, I realized how bad the audio was of the last recording, so I'm doing this one differently. Taking off the glasses, and we are going to talk about a apparently very controversial subject that I don't think it should be as controversial as it is, but it is. Fudging roles and player choice. So I made a TikTok recently in response to a D&D podcast talking about fudging roles and how we sometimes you should fudge roles, and I 100% completely disagree with that notion, because as some people think it is telling a story and like I'm changing the role to better the story, you're just kind of telling on yourself, saying that you only have one outcome in mind and you either don't have the improv skills or did not plan well enough to think of failure. And writing in failure, like, hey, you're supposed to fail at this moment, and you're supposed to, react to that story part, is railroading. You are railroading. You are actively taking player choice and natural outcomes out of the game to preserve the story that you're trying to tell. But instead, if you want to be a good DM, you need to have a failure condition and a win condition. Or, even if you only thought of the win condition, be able to improv a fail condition. Now, not every encounter is a life or death situation. But if you're going to fudge rolls, then what is the point of rolling? To actively deceive your players. That's the only reason to roll. Which again leads to railroading, because they could have lost, but now they're going to win. Or vice versa, they could have won, but now they're going to lose because that's what you wanted. Instead of having the player choose if they win or lose because of their decisions, now you're choosing if they win or lose because you want your story to go a super specific way, which spits in the face of what D&D is. Now I'm going to preface, I should have prefaced this video earlier, but if that's how you agree with your players that you want to play, if you are like, hey, we're going to more so tell a story, so sometimes I'm going to change roles, and they're like, cool, it's not a table I want to be at, because that sounds boring, and it seems like I'm not a player, like my choices don't matter. It's only the DM's choice, so I still think it's bad DMing, but if that's how you want to do your table, I'm not telling you not to do that at your table, I'm just saying that I don't like your table. A big problem is player choice. You want your players to feel like they're part of the world, and what they do actually impacts the outcome. I semi-recently, had a session that I was DMing where my players completely circumvented a boss fight. They should have gotten sucked into a portal that sent them into the Astral Sea, and then that would have been the wizard's lair, and then there would have been lair actions of buildings getting thrown at them, and a bunch of crazy stuff happening, and then they would have ran into some lore stuff, and all this would have happened after a lore drop and a twist. But that didn't happen. That straight up just didn't happen. They were able to sneak in without, being alerted, and then get the wizard in a situation where he is compromised, and then restrained, and then I was still able to get the lore and the twists where I needed them to be. Well, not where, but I got the stuff I needed out, and a boss fight still ensued after a bunch of stuff happened. I'm not going to explain it now. But the boss fight was way, way easier than it would have been otherwise. It was easier because they did something that I didn't plan for. But I was able to improv the situation and still get what I needed to get out while having their choices matter. Now, one of the players was still able to accidentally open the portal and then still got some lore that way too. But it wasn't a boss room like it was originally going to be. and then they also had to figure out how to get just that one player out. So it completely changed the scene that I had in my head. But the roles lie where they lie. I could have said, hey, oh yeah, he rolled a natural 20 on your charm, and he's going to send you to the Astral Sea or whatever. I could have said that if I wanted my story to go one way. I could have fudged the roll. But I decided not to, because I don't fudge rolls. Whatever happens, happens. There's times where I am rooting for the player. I'm like, hey, you're doing this cool thing. I hope it works. Roll for it. Or if my guy rolls for it and it's like, oh well, he succeeded on the saving throw. He's like, well, shit. And I'm not saying don't ever give your players anything. I give my players advantages. I give my players items. I give them a bunch of ways out in situations, but that serve the story, not so much in a way of fudging rolls. And if a fight happens too quick, I chalk it up to them besting me and them making, them feeling good about them outsmarting, opposed to, just trying to throw more at them. And then I will try to, outbest them later on. Or add a phase 2 if it is applicable to the situation. If it makes sense for that character to have a phase 2 or that beast to have a phase 2, I add it. You need contingencies for everything that happens. Fudging rolls is disingenuous and just, to me, shows laziness. And also a form of being soft, because it's like, I don't want to hurt my players. It's like, where's the agency if there is no risk? Then you're just kind of telling each other a story. Which, if that's how you want it to play D&D, is just you guys telling a story without playing the actual game part, then, I mean, you do you. I don't think that's the norm. Now, I'm going to go through the TikTok and read some comments and make some reactions and comments towards those reactions. One of them I can't because the guy blocked me after calling me a shit DM because I don't fudge rolls. Because apparently that's fudging rolls is like the only way you should play, which is objectively a dumb thing to say, but let's do that. Let's look through the TikTok comments so I could respond to them. 118 comments on this video because of discussions. You do you, we will do us. Saying basically I'm alone here, but I'm not. There's at least 40 people who like my idea. Man really doesn't want to make his table enjoyable for people by giving them a way out of a bad situation. Like what I said, there are many situations, and many different ways out of situations that's not just fudging rolls. Again, if they're part of a guild and like you could be given a item from like, hey, like here's a item that shows that you're part of this guild, and then that item could be a fucking trinket that saves you from death or will teleport you if you go unconscious, or if something happens where that it gets you out of that situation without making it feel like it was just a DM saying, I changed fate real quick. A DM shouldn't do that. Hell, if a player, like, if it's not a TPK, and the player does die, now you have an adventure to go out and try to resurrect them. Or if it is a TPK, now you're all on the ethereal plane, and you're trying to get back to your original bodies. There's another quest line there. Yeah, it kind of takes away from the main quest, but it's something extra to do. Critical Role has done this quite a few times, and it serves the story. It doesn't hurt the story. And this guy thinks you can make tension without fudging rolls. I disagree, because you are taking any form of chance out of actually like the situation. It's not tense if the players know, oh well, he's gonna change fate to make it so I win. So where is the tension here if I know I'm gonna win? Like it's like you put on the God mode cheat on a video game. Like, yeah, it's fun to fuck around in that, but it's not. After a while, you get bored because now, like, well, where's the challenge? And there are some comments that agree with me here, being like, hey, just play where the dice lie. Yeah, no shit. Like, yeah, I agree. Hell, my DM and I tell my players, even though I don't like showing my dice, I'll still tell them, like, oh, this is the number that landed on. GG for you, or GG for me. Like, we literally just had session on the other group where one of my friends is DMing, where he got 2 natural 1s and then 2 natural 20s and then another natural 20. Holy shit, we got messed up in that situation. But that's where the dice lie, and we still came out of it more or less okay. We lived, even after 3 natural 20s in a row, which was an anomaly, but he did it. And we know he wasn't lying because we saw it. This guy, I like this guy's idea, is that they have their player fight death when they die, and each time they fight death, like Grim Reaper, the fight gets harder and harder. So there's less, chance of you actually coming back each time. That's a cool idea. You fighting your way back into being alive again. Such a good idea. This guy thinks it's okay and it's why DM has control. That's not why DM has control. The DM is supposed to tell the narrative and also kind of be the rule lawyer and put you in the situations and tell a story. They're not supposed to be fate. Like, that's not the job of a DM, is to just change fate and change the narrative to fit what he wants. He's supposed to throw you in the world and give you the tools and give you the scenario, and then the players are supposed to be playing out the scenario. The players are just as important to the story as DM. If the DM controls everything, then just write a fucking book. If you need the story to go a certain way, don't leave it to chance. Exactly. So if you truly need a story to go one specific way, don't roll for it then. Because then you're just going to try to roll to get to the story the way you want it in the first place. So don't roll. Just tell the story. But you really shouldn't, that shouldn't be how you do most of your DMing. I only do it sometimes where, like, I really need this event to happen. So it's going to happen either way. But I try my damnedest not to do that. Like, yes, I need events to happen, but they could happen multiple different ways depending on where my players are and what my players are doing. These events are you want your players to be like they're in the living world. It's not a video game. D&D is not a video game, so you shouldn't treat it as a video game. If they didn't make it in town in time because they decided to have a shopping week at the market town, and then they go to the village that was getting attacked. Oh, too bad. The village was already attacked, and now you're actually going to ruins instead of actually saving the village because you decided not to go to the village that you were specifically told, hey, it's getting attacked. Yeah, we could deal with that later. No, you can't. The world is a living world. You can't just start the quest whenever you want and do some side quests later, because that's not how it works. So if you need story beats to happen, make them happen. Just be ready for the outcome. If I happen to roll 12 hits in a row with 3 of them being crits, I'm missing a few of those or not critting 1 or 2. Bad luck happens. That's the phrase. Bad luck happens. You're fucking right. Bad luck does happen. Going back to my original point of this is a living world, you run into bad luck. Like, bad luck does happen. Not only to the enemies, but to the player. Players just get bad luck. And they have to figure out how to get out of that. Can you explain the difference between fudging a roll for a story and allowing a god to bring the character back? Both are for narrative purposes. One of them is going out and dealing with the consequences of your actions. The other one is changing fate. If you request a god to bring your friend back because they die prematurely, that's the consequence of the action. That is an event that's taken place. You fudging a roll is just changing the outcome. There is a massive difference. He thinks, yeah, aren't you literally rewriting the story to the player's benefits? No, I'm not rewriting the story. Different events are happening, opposed to the original events. Because again, it's supposed to be a living world. Yeah, I have things that you need to hit, or like I have narrative plot points. But if we're going off the track, we're going off the track. And we're going to try to veer back. Adding to the story is not changing the narrative. One I'll take, bro feels high and mighty. You're a storytell, not their god. One, grammar, like, I think a 12-year-old wrote that. But it's not a high and mighty take to say shit happens. And yeah, no, like, You are telling a story, and no, I am not the god, which is why I don't change the fucking roles. Don't you understand that that's like god behavior of like, oh, I'm gonna change fate real quick because I want this thing to happen. Like, you just contradicted yourself. Like, yeah, you are trying to tell a story, but also so is the players. If you want a very specific story to be told, then just write a book. All these DMs, like, are afraid of consequences and branching paths. I'm not gonna TPK because I was on a hot streak. I'm not going to ruin an entire story to the weird roles. If you need to be better at making encounters. If you make an encounter where you can easily TPK your party, then it's either a bad encounter or your player is fucked up. Either way, whatever happens, you need to be able to write yourself out of a corner. Instead of just changing fate, you need to figure out like a different outcome. Like, oh, my players are dropping like flies. I need a Deus Ex Machina moment real quick because I screwed up. Like, have somebody come in the fray. Have, you know, a character, like, early on give a character MacGuffin that, you know, would teleport them at least once or something. Don't just change fate on the fly just because you can't handle the encounter. You can have thoughts, but those thoughts are wrong. No. But my point being, after reading all those comments, you need to be able to create a good story. Yes, you want your players to have fun, but you also need to have player choice. Fudging roles one way or the other takes away that. If you're like, I'm gonna fudge rolls for my players to lose or win, takes away all choices in the matter. I have not once done something like that, and my players love it. They outsmart the bad guy, and they made the fight a lot easier. Instead of breaking through the door of the hut of the bad guy, they lit it on fire. That made the boss fight a lot easier. Also, they snuck around instead of charging in, killing a lot of the guards. Made the actual encounter a lot easier because they were successful in their attempt. I'm not saying they haven't been put in situations where it's tense either. Where, like, oh man, I'm in a dungeon and now I'm getting attacked by, you know, the slime that I was expecting. Or, oh, this dragon's guarding this magical book that I need. Oh, how much damage is that? Now I'm scared. I'm giving them tension without fudging rolls. Because that's how you make a good encounter. And if they outsmart you, they outsmart you. Too bad. You have to make your players feel good about their decisions. You can't just rip their decisions away. Like, there's a reason why people hate Counterspell as a thing. Like, yeah, Counterspell exists, and so your players can use it, and so can the bad guys. But no one on either side likes that to happen. You let it happen because it's a thing. And yeah, higher levels you have to roll for it, so there's a chance of failure. And it's okay to be upset. Emotions through the game is fine as long as you can work with them and then make it part of the story instead of being salty. So that's my point. Just make better encounters and have branching paths. Don't fudge rolls, because that's just disingenuous. And again, if that's how you want to play your game, you play how you want to play, but I'm not a fan. And that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully the audio doesn't sound like shit like the last recording. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more from me, subscribe. I got plenty of content out there via Twitch, via this channel, via music. So hit me up on all of those social medias. And I got a Discord and all that fun jizzy jazz. And until next time. Bye.